Bossman show, friend of the show, FD United head coach out of Hackensack, New Jersey, a Jersey guy, the one only Greg Herenda on the Bossman show. How's it been, coach? What's up with you, my guy?
I'll tell you, Jersey's the place to be the last week, man. Shy got it heated up, and it was a great ride, and everybody jumped on. And I mean, I went to St. Peter's Prep. So St. Peter's Prep is I'm one of the best academic. I don't know how I got in, JR. I got to be honest with you. But it's a great academic school, and it's probably a mile from St. Peter's College. St. Peter's Prep is right on the river, overlooking, back in the day, the World Trade Center was getting built when I went to school there. And you can see the Statue of Liberty, now Freedom Towers, and then a mile up Montgomery, you run into St. Peter's College, and if you run too fast, you run right by it. You know, it's a small Jesuit university, and what used to be called St. Peter's College, now it's St. Peter's University. And I went to my first camp there. Bob Hurley, Coach Hurley, ran a camp at first at Hudson Catholic, and then he brought it to St. Peter's. And back then, I thought St. Peter's was the biggest university ever. It was the first campus I was ever on. But as the years went on, I realized how small and how, just like people just drove through it and by it. And now St. Peter's basketball with Shaheen Holloway has really put it on the map so that guys like you in Atlanta and people all over the country, know about it. And it was really special. It's been a special ride. I'm really happy for the university, for Shaheen, their players, and the whole state of New Jersey, but especially Jersey City.
Now, Coach Herenda, Shaheen talked about how you recruited him, how you'd be outside of his house. He's like, dang, G, do you hear it, G? He's talking about how you recruited him to Seton Hall. Talk about recruiting him as a young man to come play for Seton Hall, and you're all bond from his been a kid to now.
Well, it's important to realize that Shaheen was a household name in the metropolitan area. Back then, it was Shaheen Holloway. Everybody wanted him. Everybody wanted Tim Thomas, who wound up going to Villanova. And there were a lot of Ron Artest. They were all in the same class, and I recruited all those guys. But recruiting Shaheen was initially it was hard because we just got the job at Seton Hall. So I jumped in the summer of his junior year, which, as you well know, is really late in the process, especially now. Guys are already, deciding by then. So he was kind of standoffish, kind of like, man, who are you? What's the deal? He was feeling me out like any New York City Queens kid would do. And then he found out what you found out, that I'm real, And then I was just, man, I never thought he shot the ball well enough. So I kept on saying, but you got to shoot it better, man. If you're going to be this size your whole life. And so I never told him how good he was and how great he was. And I told him what he had to do better. And he always had a great self-confidence. So do I. So we kind of are a kindred spirits. And we've kept in touch, ever since. We got let go. And then he went to the Sweet 16. His backcourt partner was Ramontis Korkanis. I got him, too, out of the Finger Lakes in New York. He was a kid from Vilnius, Lithuania, became a starter, JR, on the Lithuanian Olympic team. So I got that backcourt was like mine, or really ours. Coach Blaney was the head coach, but those were my guys. And then we got let go, and then they went on and went to the Sweet 16 when he was a player. And now as a coach, we played each other. My wife and him, they love it. They just always say they love each other because we were family back then and we're family today. And I'm just happy for him. I really am.
No doubt. I remember watching those games, Coach Herenda, over in the Meadowlands used to play it over in the Meadowlands before they went to Newark. So I enjoyed watching the Big East as a kid. The MSG with St. John's, you guys at the Meadowlands, Villanova at the Wachovia Center. I don't know what it's called these days, but Fargo Center.
Wells Fargo Arena, I think, something like that. Yeah. I was down there. Yeah. So the drill and the area, and I'm not surprised what's going on. I literally think I'm going to go on record on your show as saying that, I think he's like transcends just basketball. Like he's, Seton Hall won't be his last stop. I feel him being a Knick coach or the net coach. I think he relates to, you saw how people started following him, like Magic followed him, and trying to think of another great old school pro, Charles and those guys, Kenny I think he transcends like basketball into professional basketball and to, Olympic basketball. So I think this is just the beginning of the coming out party for Shaheen Holloway.
And we talked offline, him and I did with taping the show, and he's such a real dude. Like this, that's a real dude. Like I'm like, yeah, you was a real cat like I am. So he's talking like just two regular real cats off the air. Then we go to the air like it's all good, but it's like this dude is. So I want to play for a guy like Shaheen because he's a real cat. Like I came from a tough part of Atlanta, so he's tough part of Queens. So we had that bond. We both can kind of know where we both came from. I'm down here, he's up there, but it's the same kind of bond we had off air there.
No, and you know what? You're so right. And then also, he can hang out with the white suburban kid that comes up for an autograph, with his mom and dad. Like he's a man of the people.
Yes, he is.
And I think that's something that really has a lot to do with his success because, Dougie Eddard, or Drame or the Defo, don't matter where they come from, they relate to him. And I think the same thing will happen when he goes to the Big East and then beyond. So it's I think real has never been out of style.
100%.
It never goes out of style, and phoniness gets sniffed out, especially in this day and age. These kids or young men are really smart, and Shah was always street smart. Like he could always, I'll never forget. Here's a good story for you. We walked in, back then it was called the Continental Airways.
I know, yes.
Continental Arena. And I'm showing him like the Final Four. He goes, gee, you had nothing to do with that. Right, like that to me, because it was PJ. And I go, yeah, I know, but that's what, instead of like backtracking, I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's what you can do here. Like you cannot BS Shaheen. You can't BS the great ones, and he's a great one. And it's too bad because as soon as he committed, he was recruiting. He tried to get Timmy Thomas, who went to Villanova, Ron Artest, wound up going to St. John's for a cup of coffee. I'm trying to think of the third guy that we didn't get, but we got Ramontes. But there were just a ton of players in the area, and he was like, yo, man, every gym that Shah played in when he was a kid, whether it was the Gauchos or he was, out in Elizabeth or he was in the Garden, he was the focal point of the game. And he wound up winning the MVP of the McDonald's All-American game, and Kobe was on the floor. I mean, so the cat is big, and but he's in a small body and a small bottle, but there's a lot inside that bottle for sure.
And I love his true raw emotion, coach. Like it's not fake. Yeah. He really invested. Like some people like, I love that he actually the calls get to him. He's really engaged. I love that because this coach, some coaches are just stiffs. But Shah are stiff. He's real with it on the court with the referees. He shows how he really feels when he's coaching his team up and doing what he's doing, schematically wise as well.
No, you're spot on. And I think, and I'm not like, what's the guy? Nostradamus, right? But he ain't changing either. You know what I mean? Like that, like the day he changes, the day I pick up the phone and say, Shah, what's wrong with you, man? And I know I'm not going to have to pick up that phone because but he has matured. Like he has matured. Like now his whole delivery to the press and his whole demeanor is now, you can see there's a maturity process. Like when he was 17, 18 years old, I saw him in some games and some really tough, the tough AU games when it gets heated. He got ultra heated and he had to kind of dial it down a little bit. And but where he is now is just in a really, really good place. And it just happens that the whole world was watching what he did, and that's that's the beauty of this tournament, man. Really, it brings out the best in people. Sometimes it brings out the worst in people, but for the most part, you see the best, and that's what you're seeing right now.
No doubt, and I feel like Jersey is a cool place. I got so many friends in Jersey. I like coming up there when I'm up there when it's not too cold, of course.
Yeah, it's cold, man. It's freezing up here right now. I can't wait to get down to NOLA. It's like freezing up here now. But you're right. No, you know what? It's a real place, and it's not easy. You know, you got to fight for parking space, and if you're not from here, you know, your GPS might not work. If you're from Atlanta, you know, there's a lot of ways to get around. You watch the Sopranos show, and everybody drives, you know, by the turnpike, and but there's a soft side to Jersey, man. Once you're in it and you're part of the family and you're a part of the bat, we've had a lot of really good players. Like I remember we recruited Marcus Towns, who won a championship for us here, and then transferred to Loyola of Chicago and played on the Final Four team. But on his team was the big boy, the big cat. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Towns, the big
Karl Anthony Towns.
Karl Anthony was on his team. So you were in the gym, like recruiting Marcus, and then Cal was there, and Self was there, and like, you know, you go to all these places, man, and it's just like everybody gets there, and everybody's like, okay, man, this is where you need to be. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, there's a lot of great players from Atlanta and New York, but in Jersey, it's kind of like there are these old gyms that are hard to find, but when you get in them, you find a lot of good players, and you know, I'm sure he'll continue to recruit those kind of players.
Yeah, and I love coming to I got friends in Montclair, of course, East Orange, for Gamboy. I got in East Orange, so
yeah,
that Northern Jersey areas, I'm good riding the NJ Transit, Coach. I'm good at the NJ Transit. I got that down pat, Coach.
And you know what, man? You can eat well up here. You got to watch, because I know Atlanta's got a lot of good grub down there, but up here, you can't go wrong with the Italian restaurants, and there's a lot of, you know, Philly's got the cheesesteaks down the road, and but there's just good spots to eat and good spots to hang out, and then you got the city right across the river. Then you got the airport that's always here, so you can get people in and out. So it's really you know, it's a special place. It's home, man. I was born in Jersey City, where St. Peter's is, and my grandfather played professional basketball. He was inducted. I'm going to send you a picture. My grandfather was inducted to the Brooklyn Basketball Hall of Fame with Willis Reed.
Wow.
I got a great picture. My grandfather was born in 1899, so they were playing professional basketball before the NBA. He played professional baseball with Lou. I'll send you another picture with Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. Wow. So the history of my family is huge, but the history of sport right in this area, because back in the day, man, you know, it was New York was the place to be, and then everybody branched out as the country kind of grew and blew up. But it's a lot of history up here, man. A lot of history.
I gotta tell you, Coach, I love your sport coat game. I want to get something like you, man. Hey, you were clean that sport coat with
tight.
Roy Williams. Hey, look, hey, I enjoyed that, man. Coach Herenda is getting it in, man. I love those kind of sports coaches. See, think about with the pandemic, we all wear these zips now. We wear quarter zips on to dress up anymore.
That's right.
There's quarter zips now in slacks and sneakers. But when I had to dress up, man, I love me a good suit separate, throw me a nice little shirt with it, leave the tie on button. But I said, man, you're doing it. I loved it. I love that sport coat you had, man.
Well, you know, I appreciate every once in a while I got to bounce something out there that works. But I'll tell you the story real quick about Roy Williams. This is a great Jersey story. I'm walking out of Fairleigh Dickinson University, and this is like 25 years ago. And Roy Williams and Lute Olson are looking for a restaurant. And somehow I was right next to him, and I said, there's a place, Amarone's, right up the street. I gave him the directions. And they went the next day. This is when like LeBron was playing and Tracy McGrady, all these guys were playing at FDU in the ABCD Adidas that Sonny Vaccaro was running. The next day, Roy Williams comes to me and he goes, Coach, that was one of the great restaurants I've ever eaten in. I can't thank you enough. So I told my mother that. My mother that night made cookies, right, with powdered blue sprinkles and gave them to me and said, you make sure I love Roy Williams. You give them to Coach Williams. So the next day at the camp, he was leaving, getting in his car. I ran. I go, Coach, these cookies are from my mom. She wanted me to give them to you. About a week later, JR, there's a letter in my mailbox, big letter, heavy. It was the media guy to North Carolina and a written note to me and my mother, or really to my mother, thanking her for the cookies. Now, that's 25 years ago. I see him on Sunday at St. Peter's Carolina game. First thing he says, Greg, I saw you win. He goes, I don't know if you are a good coach, but guess what? I know your mom makes good cookies. How is she doing? And my mom passed away in 2007. And I'm like, this guy remembered 25 years ago, my mother baking him cookies. And like, I'm like, God, this is why I coach, because of the great people that I meet and that the relationships that you build just by directing somebody to a restaurant, you know, in Teaneck, New Jersey. And Roy is a class act, man. And I knew him when I was at East Carolina. I was the associate head coach. He was at North Carolina. We would bump into each other, and he doesn't have to talk to me, but a special man and a really, really good person. So it's like, so I had to have the sport coach to look. I didn't know I was going to meet him, but I knew I'd meet somebody. And
no doubt,
meeting Roy was after 20-something years was really, really cool.
Now, Coach, you know, you guys got spring practice coming up here real soon for workouts. So tell me about that. Tough year for you guys this year, but
yeah,
as you all look to bounce back in 2022 or 23, what's on the horizon for you guys this spring and for workouts?
Yeah, you know what? We're on the other end of like the transfer portal. We were involved with some really good players, but to be honest with you, the way we did it this year, it hurt us this year, but it's going to help us moving forward. We brought in 7 freshmen. My thing was, if we can't get really good kids out of that transfer portal and really good players, I'm not going to waste those scholarships. So we have 6 freshmen. 3 were on the all-freshman rookie team, and 1 was the rookie of the year. So moving forward, we've got a really good group, and it's very similar to the 2009. We won it in 16, 19. We usually wait a few years, give everybody else a chance to win it. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Well, we're gonna win it. We're gonna win it again, man. We're talented. We're young. I love the group. They're working out and getting after it this spring. They know that we're a championship program, and that's our goal. And this year, you know, we didn't reach that, but we're building towards it. So it's the spring is good. It's you take a deep breath, you get bigger, stronger, you work on your weaknesses, you advance on your strengths. And, you know, and I tell these guys all the time, man, watch all these games. So you're going to be in them. You know, you're going to be in these games. And it's all relative, man. When Duke and Carolina are playing, guess what? Next year, we're going to be playing in the semis, you know, against Wagner or against St. Francis or Brooklyn. And it's going to be on national TV. But so be ready to enjoy it. But right now, understand you got to work towards it to get better so that when you do get in those big games, you know, we'll win them. So our kids are great kids. They're studying hard, and I love them to death.
And Coach, how's your radio show going? I know you have your show. How's that been going for you?
You know what? We've kind of put like a little pause on it since COVID. So we've kind of changed it. But I did pick up Roy the other day. I said, Coach, this is classic. I said, I don't call him Roy. I said, Coach, I have the radio. He goes, no, I know about your radio show. He goes, I've been on King Rice's. If I'm doing Kings in New Jersey, I'm doing yours. So I picked up Roy Williams for my radio show. So it's kind of since COVID, everything's kind of been closed on campus. It was just more difficult. So I think we're going to start it up again, but I've done over 200. I think it's like 230 shows, bro.
Wow.
And that's on top of being a head college Division I basketball coach. And I get every guest myself except for one. And my favorite show, I got to send it to you. I've been looking at them. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was David Barrett. Now, do you know who David Barrett is?
I don't. You have to let me know.
Good. David Barrett, not many people would know this, is the producer and the songwriter of One Shining Moment.
Oh.
On the show, he had a guitar right behind, like where you have that wood. He had a guitar. And I said, Dave, could you please strum me a few bars of One Shining Moment? He did it live on the show. He sang it with just an acoustic guitar. When I tell you I'm getting goosebumps now, you got to watch it, man. It just brings it back to, like, his story is incredible because he was nobody trying to just make it. And the story of him producing and writing that song was incredible. And when you hear him just strumming it with nothing around him, it's like, it really gets to you. So yeah, that's another part of my life that I love, man. And I know you love what you do, but I love I just love communicating with people and connecting with people. And, that's fun. And that's how you get recruits. That's how Shaheen, getting back to our, main topic, that's how you get great players, man. You get great people. And Shah's a great, great person.
You know what's funny on this business, coach? I remember being a young punk, 9 years old, and listening to Jim Rome, right?
Oh,
Super Bowl, I got to meet Jim Rome. And because that was one of my inspirations being radio. I like Jim Rome's style. So getting to meet Jim Rome, a dude that was a 9-year-old punk in the hood of Atlanta, and telling him that story. Like,
that is very. Have you had Jim Rome on your show?
I have. I met it for the first time in Super Bowl in LA. I met it for the first time.
I've been on his show twice, and he was on my show once. You got to check that show out. Very, very cool. And just real, didn't have to do, Jim Rome is, he's the, the jungle and the whole deal. He's the man. He was on my show and he was awesome. I had Jay Wright on twice. I had Tom Izzo, Frank Martin, who just went up to UMass.
My God, Frank Martin.
Frank is the man, so he was an assistant with Hugs at Cincinnati when I was at East Carolina, and we were battling in Conference USA. So as you well know, man, and your fans know this, it's one big basketball mosh pit of people, and that's what makes it great.
No doubt, Coach. I was telling people this the last week, Coach, like for me, I've been doing this for going on my 13th year, Coach. I started in 2009, right? And for me, growing up the way I grew up, to be able to talk to Dominique Wilkins every day, or speak to like Tony Delk, who I was a ball boy for. You know that game, Arkansas, Kentucky, at the Georgia Dome in '95? I was a ball boy for that game, Coach.
Stop.
So Tony Delk and me are now friends. I hang out with this guy who I was a ball boy for at 8 years old. So nuts. All these different things, like Rodney Billups is a friend of mine, Chauncey Billups, whoever thought I'd be friends with these guys. So for me,
right,
I'm living a dream because the way I grew up, Coach, I'm not supposed to be doing this, Coach, but I am because of hard work, dedication, and drive, and just being who I am. So that's for me, I'm living a dream, Coach. I'm just pitching myself because people I'm around I never thought I would meet in my life.
Yo, now this is crazy. Now, I went to 5-star basketball camp. Dominique was on my team at 5-star in 1978.
Wow.
Okay, Mitch Bonner, he won't remember me, but I remember like it, and he called himself Dom back then. It wasn't, like when he introduced himself, I'll never forget our coach, Mitch Bonagoro, said, all right, let's go around and introduce each other so we know where we're from and what awards you might have won, right? So I said, I'm just a shy kid back then, just like everybody. I'm like, I'm Greg Herenda, and I go to St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City, and I was, honorable mention, all Hudson County as a sophomore. Like, was big because Hudson County is where the Hurleys are from. Like, it's big. So Dom stands up. It's classic. And it's like at night, and you just look up, and he looked like he was like 10 feet tall. He says, "My name is Dom Williams. I'm from Washington, North Carolina, and I'm a first-team Street and Smith All-American." And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm on the right team, man. Yeah. And we lost in the finals to Sam Bowie. Sam Bowie, who was the draft pick ahead of Michael Jordan.
Trailblazers.
With the Trailblazers. But they had a guard by the name of Rocket Rod Foster, who played at UCLA back then and was just flying. But Dom, man, that's cool. It's so cool that you can hang out with the human highlight film, man. That's what he was. That's very, very cool.
Another guy who I was a fan of as a kid. Like, I never thought it. I like, Coach, I couldn't afford to go to the Omni to watch a game.
Right,
as a kid, right? So I'm watching him on TV. And because I grew up 3 miles from the Omni. So I was very close to it, but I couldn't afford to go to a game. And now I see him every day. Like, we can talk about life, basketball, TV, entertainment. It's same with Vince Carter, who's around every day now. I never would have dreamed this in my life. Being like,
no. It's like
Atlanta.
You are a charmed cat, man. Yes, but you said it before. Guess what? A lot of people want to do what you do, but you know what? It's a lot of work to get there. You gotta just persevere and get through a lot to get your own show and to get your own Division I job. You know, it's a long, hard road, but when you get there, it's magical, and I'm glad that you're reaping those benefits.
Coach, 4 years. 2 to 6 a.m. Me, the deer, and the truckers. 4 years there. The graveyard shift 2 to 6 in the morning.
Exactly. No, yeah, it's good. But you know
what? All my lumps then.
But those 4 years, you wouldn't give back for anything, man.
I would.
That's what. You made your bones there. That's how you developed it, and you'll all the great ones look back on the beginning, and it's like that's where it started. People look and say, "Oh man, you're a Division I. What do you do?" Oh my God, you have no idea of the hours of driving. I recruited a kid called Gary Duda, scored 2,000 points at Merrimack, and I was living in North Andover, Massachusetts. I would drive to Philadelphia, which was a 6-hour drive up and back once a week just to watch the kid play. And when you go to Philadelphia from Massachusetts, you got to drive through Worcester, Hartford, Bridgeport, Stamford, New York City, the whole state of New Jersey, get into Philadelphia, get to Conshohocken, eat, find a parking space, and then when the game was over, do it again, and then get up in the morning and go to the office. So, those, same thing with you. 4 years of just getting up in the middle of the night when no one in the world knows, what you're doing and why you're doing, but it pays off now. And I'm glad I don't have to do it again. But every once in a while with my assistants, I'll say, "Come on, man, we got to go." And I drove to Ohio. I love driving because I just put on the radio, and I remember listening to I wish I could have got you back in the day on the radio, but I used to listen to Freddie Coleman, man. Freddie Coleman was always on at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Always late night Freddie Coleman. Yes.
And I would just be like, okay, I got Freddie. And then I would get out of a major city and I'd lose him and I'd get him back. It was
Coach, I remember driving to Memphis in nights and back, Charlotte, Indiana, Orlando. Before I got settled one place, I was living that life too, covering these games. So I remember that, Coach, and Freddie Coleman's always on the radio for me. And Ben Maller or JT the Brick. Always on. So I heard, Coach, don't let that drive. I'm with you, Coach. I know how it was. We're in the air everywhere. As they would say.
That is funny. Well, listen, JR, I got to get flying, man. I got actually tonight, let the truth be known, I'm going over to the NIT as we tape this. My boy, Steve Curran's the assistant associate head coach at St. Bonnie's. I recruited him to Merrimack. They're tipping off against Xavier, and I get to get over there and see him before the game. And I just love staying involved with, like, so Shah was coaching at St. Peter's, Steve Curran at St. Bonnie's, Darren Savino. You got to get him on the show. He's the associate head coach at UCLA.
I'll do that.
Maurice Mojo from Richmond, and Darius Stokes from Richmond. So, like, late here in the year, I had a lot of really good, really cool cats that are in the tournament now, so I'm going over to the Garden tonight to check out the NIT. So it never stops, JR. Never stops.
No doubt, Coach. Well, Coach, hope to see you in New Orleans. I'm heading there on Thursday, so look forward to it. No doubt, Coach. Hey, you my guy, man. See you soon, brother.
Peace. Thanks so much, brother.
All right, now. That was fun, Coach. I'll see you soon, brother.
You got it. I got your cell. We'll just text, but we'll definitely get together. We'll grab some shrimp. What do they got down there? What do they call the shrimp?
Crawfish.
Yeah, do some of that.
Yeah, we'll get it going.
And you got to introduce me to some of your friends down there.
I shall. I got you, brother.
All right, boy. Thanks, JR. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye now.